A note, couple of notes. The camera looks weird because it is not cooperating. So it doesn't zoom, it doesn't move. So that's why you're capturing the whole room. So I've already let them know about that. So, the next thing is I have placed a couple of items into the chat for you, for your reference. The first thing that is in the chat is a Word document that is a sort of a cheat sheet for PowerPoint accessibility. Okay, it gives you file into the chat is because there are a lot of rules, and I'm not probably going to have the time to go through every single one of them today. The other thing that I put into the chat is a link. It says presentations, training videos, section 508.gov, and it will bring you over here. So this is a set of videos. Section 508 is the federal digital accessibility standard. Okay, and it has all these videos. Most of them are about 2-3 minutes long, thereabouts, so easily digestible, and talking about all kinds of PowerPoint accessibility rules that you can refer to at any time. All right, so you can favorite this link, or you can just search it out. You can go to Google and you can say Section 508 PowerPoint videos, and it will take you right to this link. I'm going to give you as many rules as I can without overloading you too much, okay? But just so you know, there's a lot of rules as far as PowerPoint is concerned. Okay, so let's get ourselves started. PowerPoint accessibility is actually going to become pretty important because PowerPoint is used a great deal for many things. I know there are a lot of competitors. Okay, there's Google Slides, there's Canva. Canva seems to be the big thing these days. Okay, but there's some competitors. But by it, faculty use PowerPoint for our important stuff. And when we're presenting PowerPoint presentations, we have to start being able to do so with accessibility in mind, especially if those presentations are put out on our websites for public consumption. For instance, on Brightspace, many faculty put their PowerPoint presentations out for public consumption for their classes. Well, that makes them outward facing. Okay, so PowerPoint accessibility is very, very important. All right, so let's get started here. So what I have in front of me is my PowerPoint screen. My PowerPoint screen, I'm going to present it to you this way, and not as a slideshow, but I'm going to present it to you like this, because once I present you the rules, then I'm going to have slides down below where I'm going to be showing the editing that you're going to need to know to produce PowerPoint presentations. I'm sorry, hang on one second. Is somebody knocking at the door? Okay, I thought somebody was knocking at the door. My apologies. Okay, so we're going to stay with the editing screen here. Okay, now the way I'm going to do this is I have slides here that I'm going to present with the different rules. After those slides, I'm going to have examples or empty slides where I'm going to be doing the editing, and you're free to follow along with me and play along as you will. Okay, all right, so let's start easy at the moment. Let's start with the simple stuff. You guys have already been through the Word accessibility trainings. Okay, I believe that each one of you was at one of my Word accessibility trainings. There are rules here in PowerPoint that are common with Word, and they're very, very simple. Okay, so I don't need to really go very deeply into them. You have to have sufficient context between text and background. I recommend black on white. In PowerPoint, it's a little bit more of an issue because in PowerPoint, we're not always using white backgrounds, okay? We're using different kinds of templates and they may have a different colored background. So that's something you're going to want to watch. So you have to make efficient contrast. There is no law that states that it has to be black text or white background. There's no law that says that, okay? But that's what I recommend. Ideally, sans serif fonts. You can use Times New Roman, but don't use anything fancy. Nobody cares about the font you're using. They want it to be easily readable. They want it to be digestible so that they can understand the information, okay? Alt text for all graphical elements. If you guys remember from Word, when you put an image in, you have to either provide it with alt text so that the system can read the metadata behind it and read it to somebody who can't see it, or mark it as decorative so that the reader will ignore it. No color to convey meaning, which is, again, I'm not going to, for instance, turn this text red to make you understand that it's important, okay? It would have to have some kind of text alternative, okay, so that you understand that it's important. Simple table structure, we'll get into tables in a little bit, okay? Only columns and rows, nothing fancy. So we'll get to that. Tables must have row and or column headers. All table rules, no merging, no splitting, no nesting, just like in Word, okay? And if you have a URL that you want read out, then you have to apply that URL to descriptive text. All of these are the same rules as Word, okay? Any questions about that? Show of digital hands, everybody okay? We all good? I'm going to assume that everybody is good. Okay. So now I'm going, I had this example slide that I want to show you real quick. Now you guys have used PowerPoint. You know exactly how to use PowerPoint. The main thing you need to understand with PowerPoint, if you want it to be accessible, you need to use the built-in tools to insert elements, okay? So for instance, the built-in tool for insert, where is that? Tables, insert a picture, insert a text box, which is not one of these tools over here. There are other more advanced things that we're not going to get into, like Power BI. We're not going to worry about forms today. Okay, you can insert forms. Forms structure. When you are adding text and facts in a presentation, you must add it in an outline structure. That outline structure is what is analogous to Word's heading system. There is no heading system in PowerPoint, so we will get to that. If you want to change the way your templates look, you use the slide master. So we'll go into a demonstration of this after I go through this list. All slides must be descriptively titled. Many presentations that I've seen do not have titles on the slide. All slides must be descriptively titled. There is no choice in that matter. Okay? If you're going to create columns in your presentation, okay, you must use the column tool. You cannot place half of the text on one side in one text box and then put another text box and copy and paste the text next to it. You cannot do that. You must use the column tool. If you do it the text box way, the system will not read the text all the way through. Okay? I already mentioned tables must be created by the table tool and no images of tables. No images of tables. The reason being that the alt text that you would apply to a table image is not sufficient to convey what you need to convey with the table. You must actually insert a table. If you're going to insert videos or a link to a video, you need to make sure that that video has closed captioning and transcription enabled. We will get to video. Okay, so what I'm going to go through right now is the template. Okay, so I'm going to actually start a new presentation over the presentation that I have right now. I'm going to start a new presentation. Now, I'm quite sure that each of you have in one way or another engaged with templates in Microsoft PowerPoint. So this is nothing new to you. The main thing you need to understand with templates is that not all of them are accessible. You have to be very careful. As you can see, you've got a lot of color that may present contrast issues with respect to the text. So you're going to want to be careful with that. One of the things you can do is when searching for online templates and themes, you can type in accessible templates. And it's going to present you with what it believes are templates that are accessible. Are they all accessible? I look at some of these and I wonder, which is why I say be really careful with the templates you use, because it can cause accessibility issues. Now, I'm going to go back. One of the template types that I like to use are the themes. Themes tend to be more accessible and easier to work with than our actual templates. They're simpler, okay? These are sort of more traditional PowerPoint look. If I choose a theme, I'm going to choose a very simple theme here. I'm going to try to choose this one, see what happens, right? I'm going to choose this theme, and I can choose a layout here, a title, I'm not a layout, a color layout, and I'm going to choose this layout over here, which seems to match SUNY Oneonta's colors. Why am I going with themes rather than some cute template? Because in the end, nobody cares. They want the information. They want it to be easily digestible. They want to understand it. And the background, the better. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to create this template over here. And now I have this simple template. Now, if I take put in a new slide, each one of these new slides will carry the template. So I'm going to go ahead and say table and content. I have the same into the view tab because I want to see if I can't edit some of the elements of my template. So I'm going to go in here to the view tab and I'm going to go over to my slide master. The slide master is the function in PowerPoint which allows you to control the look and feel of you can change the size of the boxes if you want. I don't recommend it, but you can. The default size of the boxes. You can eliminate certain things from the slides. Again, you do what you want. The slide master is where you go to do it. Now, the important thing I want to show you here, okay, is this. This is the important thing that I want to show you. The outline structure. Remember I talked to you about headings in Word, right? There's a title heading, then there's heading 1, then there's heading 2, then there's heading 3. Everything under the title heading is related to what the title is representing. Anything that's under heading 1 is related to heading 1. Anything that's under heading 2 is related to heading 1. Okay, and so on and so forth. Well, this is what counts as PowerPoint's heading system, except that it is an outline structure. So on and so forth. When I come to a section that I want to return back to a more major level, then anything under that subsequent level is unrelated, system-wise, not necessarily content-wise, but system-wise, outline-wise, to the previous major level. Okay, so everybody show me your digital thumbs up. Does everybody understand what I'm talking about? We're all good. I'm not confusing anybody. Tammy, you're good?
Good. I just can't find
You can't find your what?
my thumb.
Your thumb. No, you're on camera, so you can just thumb me on camera.
I'm good.
There you go. Okay. Okay. So now in this master style, slide master, you can go ahead and you can change the fonts by highlighting the particular element. When you highlight the particular element, the fonting box will show up and you can change the fonts. What you want to make sure of is if you want to change the color of the font, there has to be good contrast between the color of the background and the color of the font. If you do choose a background that is darker, then you need to have a font color that is more like white. If you don't have that sufficient color contrast, you're going to get yellow. Okay, so I just want to have that up there so you guys understand it uses exactly the same kind of a system that Word uses. I already have a problem. I've got a missing slide title. Okay, There you go. I haven't even started the presentation. That's why I'm getting a problem. But as you can see, it's going to catch those simple things like missing slide titles. All right. Okay. So let's say I want to make this. I want to make this bigger. Actually, I can do it through the box too. I can go to home here. I can change the font size. I'm going to set it to 66, just for the heck of it. I'm going to make sure that my font is black, which it is. Maybe I want to make my level 1 a little bigger. So I'm going to call it 28. I'm going to leave. I don't have to do anything else. I can simply go back and I can go home, and now I can work within my slides itself. Although I do want to check one thing over here. If I go back into view, I go back into slide master view. Okay. Then once I'm done, I'm going to go back to normal. That's what I'm going to do. Normal. Okay. Not the home tab, normal. Now I'm ready to create my presentation. So here is my title. And here is my slide title, slide 1. Notice once I started typing into the slide title area, my error for missing slide title is gone. Now, there's another thing that you need to notice over here, and that's this guy right here, duplicate slide title. You cannot use the same slide title for different slides. Okay, there has to be okay, I think you guys all understand that part. These rules of slide master and understanding the contrast and everything I just told you apply to all templates. Okay, so whatever template you're using, you're going to have to deal with its accessibility. Select this guy up at all times so it can bring to you any as far as the template is concerned. Okay, I am going to minimize this. I'm going to go back to my original type, original PowerPoint presentation. Okay, now, next thing I want to talk to you about, so we followed the template's outline structure. We edit the templates with the slide master. We talked about that. All slides must include a descriptive and unique title. Next. Up in here, right there. There's your column tool. When you are creating, so if I'm going to go over here, one column. This was my original text that I pulled out of somewhere. Okay. I cannot take this first paragraph and copy it into the first text box if I have two text boxes. Like, for instance, if I want to create a new slide, I can create a new slide with two text boxes. You see that right over there? Okay, I can do that. That's not a problem. But what I can't do is take this text, okay, and put it into that particular text box, and then take this text and copy and paste it into the second text box. That's no good. What I have to do is use the column tool. The column tool is ridiculously simple. I simply select the box, I go up to the column tool, and I say, okay, I'm going to put it in whatever. Okay? Notice that the columns are pretty close to one another. I would say that two columns is as far as I would go. I can tell you that when I look at the columns in PowerPoint on this file, when I opened it up in the browser, they were even closer together. So the column tool isn't perfect, but it's what you have to use if you're going to be using if you're going to be using enough text that you want to put it into columns. I don't want to be a dead horse. I think this is pretty simple. Okay. So if everybody's good, I'm going to move on. Okay. Next. Charts and tables. Charts and tables must be clearly labeled with a descriptive title, include a text summary, and observe proper contrast. So let's play with this. This is title for my slide. Then I put above it a title summary. Okay, remember one thing about title summaries. Title summaries not only make your table more accessible, it will make you a hero to everyone who has to engage with the table. I've said this before, but I'm going to say it again. The human brain is engineered to want simplicity and efficiency. The more it has to dig through different kinds of data without a way to easily summarize it, the more labor it has to undertake, unless you're completely familiar with the information. And the more difficult it is to fully understand of what the data is about and how the data trends and what the table is saying, you will be a hero, not only to those who need the accessibility, but to anybody who engages with the content. I don't know if you guys know the trend, but let's just go into the weeds for a second. The number of people watching Netflix movies who have closed captioning turned on has increased exponentially. Okay, why? Because it lowers the labor on the brain and it gives them something for chew on when it comes to understanding what's happening on the screen. Even if they understand the language, more people are using the closed captioning. That's going to be something I'm going to mention again when we talk about videos, but the point I'm trying to make is that imagine that closed. It's the same concept here. Okay, now the table itself. The table is created in precisely the same way that you create tables in Word. I don't think I have to go through that. But what I want to show you is when I click on the table, you're going to have the two context tabs, the table design and the table layout tab. Under the table design tab, you're going to have the same rules as you have with Word. First, the header row button must be clicked. This header row has as a header row. Otherwise, the reader will understand that this is where the column headers are. Your other option too is to make column headers. And by the way, this is the same option that's available in Word. Some tables will require column headers. So in order, you need to make sure that first column is selected. I uncheck. Those designations go away. At first column, I have my header column. I get it, I understand. But in the end, nobody will care if you have shading in your table. We understand, and then they want to go home. In order to play around with the shading, you click the table styles down arrow, and here you have all these different table styles. And you are free to use whichever table style you want. Lots of pretty colors. That's great. Okay, but you have to make sure that you are choosing, if you're going to choose colors, you have to make sure your text is of sufficient contrast. If you choose something like this, you're putting yourself in a position to get flagged. For my money, I simply usually like to use something simple like this. Okay, now in this particular style, okay, does not show me that I have my header rows and my header column if I have them checked. That I can use. Here is one where the problem being the cells have, I don't even know if you can see it on my screen. The cells are separated by very lightly colored lines. I don't think that's going to be an accessibility issue. It's going to be a readability issue from the sighted point of view, having a hard time telling what cell is what. So, but whatever, it's all up to you guys. You choose your style. So, but just be very, very cognizant of all of the accessibility, potential accessibility issues you might encounter as a result. Okay, now all of the other table rules apply. No merging, no splitting, no nesting of tables. Do not leave empty cells empty. Text alternative says no data, no data, no data, so that the person who needs the reader to tell them what's going on understands that. Okay? All right. I'm going to get back to this. I'm going to get back to this in a minute. Okay? I want to talk about PowerPoint charts because we were talking about charts and tables. So I'm going to go in here. Okay? Charts have to observe similar rules as far as the chart summary. So we have our accessible PowerPoint charts. That's our unique title. A chart summary, believe me, people, again, if you put a text summary of the chart in there, you will be a hero to everybody. Okay, what the chart is saying, how the chart trends, how people should be directed to interpret the chart. Boom, end of story. The chart itself, okay, needs to be titled. So I'm just going to bring this down. It needs to be titled. All elements have to be included in the legend. Okay, and the axes, what I actually don't have here, and I should have a chart design. Let me get out of here. Let me get this stupid thing out of here. So let me go back over to chart design. Add chart element. You should have your axes titled. I don't have my axis titled over here. So my primary horizontal title needs to have an axis. My primary horizontal axis has to have a title, and my vertical one as well. Make sure your axes are titled. Now, the problem becomes, what if the chart is big and needs more space? Well, then I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to make my text a little smaller. So I'm going to go over here and say, okay, instead of 24, I'm going to make it 16, increase the size of the chart some. Okay, maybe I need to have the text over here and the chart over here. Okay. You guys understand how you can play around with that. But that brings us to the network thing. And that brings me up to here. Objects are read in the order inserted. Okay? So you plan accordingly. That's going to take a little retraining if you haven't done it already. You have to storyboard, essentially, in your head or on a piece of paper or on your computer, whichever way you're going to do it. You have to storyboard how you want that slide read. and then plan to insert those elements in that order. So in this case, let's say I want to bring the chart over here, and I'm going to take the text and I'm going to bring it over here. Okay, that makes things a little easier for me to work with, because now I can increase the size of the chart. It's actually, I have to make sure I inserted the text first and then the chart second. Then the reader will read to the reader the summary first and then go into the chart itself. You guys, show of digital thumbs. Everybody's good? And those rules apply for all elements inside of PowerPoint: charts, tables, videos. You put together a flow chart. We'll be talking about shapes in a minute. Okay, those rules apply for all elements that you put in. The order you put an element in is the order it's going to get read. Okay, I do believe I have made my point. Another thing about the chart you need to also be careful of is charts and tables. I'm going to go up here to the table, I believe. Okay, charts. Does the table require? I'm looking for. See if the table requires alt text. I'm not seeing alt text option for the table, but for the chart requires alt text, view alt text. So you can take the summary, okay, and you can copy and paste it into the alt text. That would make it kind of redundant, right? So you can simply say, my chart about whatever. Okay, obviously, okay? Obviously, you're not going to put that in there, but you understand. So just so that the reader understands what the chart is about, you can also copy and paste the chart title into the alt text. Okay, notice that I alt text. Click on the overarching chart box. Okay, so if I click on a particular element, I don't have that option. So whatever alt text I put in here has to be descriptive of the entire chart. Okay? All right. We good? Okay. Let me go down over here. I don't remember why I put that there, so I'm just going to go past it. Okay, shapes and smart art. Very, very important distinction. Many people use smart art. Okay, show of digital thumbs. Who here uses smart art? No? Okay. The reason smart art is popular, actually, let me go up here and I'll use this for smart art, okay? The reason smart art is popular is because it creates an entire series of shapes with a specific directional flow. I can insert smart art. And here's my different types of smart art. And I'm going to just simply put this in here, right? There's my smart art. It's the same smart art as I put in before. You can choose whatever, okay? And smart art, you can put the text in and you can format for color and all that. Obviously watching for contrast and all that. The problem with smart art, as far as accessibility is concerned, is that smart art is only partially accessible. What do I mean by that? What I mean is that if I click on the an overarching container for smart art, this is where I can insert alt text, okay? So the alt text would be descriptive of the entire smart art, all the that But what I can't do is insert alt text for the individual elements. And because SmartArt is more textually based than charts are, it's more important for the individual elements to have the alt text. You can't do that in SmartArt. Okay, so you increase the labor on yourself, right? You go and you use shapes instead. So I can go here. I'm going to go. So these are shapes. I just put these shapes in. If you're going to create a flow chart or whatever kind of shape you want to create, each shape itself has its own alt text. Okay? So you set its alt text. Okay? I'm going to say here, parallelogram, right? I have to remember back to middle school to remember how to spell parallelogram. Parallelogram, I believe I spelled that correctly. Okay, so each one of these has their own alt text. Now what I can do with these three is if I want to, and you don't have to do this, but if I want to, I can, let's see if I can group them. I can right click on any one of these guys and I can group them into an entire single entity that I can now apply. Let me see if it gives me the alt text over here. If I click on this, okay. In this case, it doesn't give me an alt text, but it gives me the alt text for each one of these. So that is whereas with SmartArt, the entire thing is alt texted, but the elements themselves cannot be. The recommendation, as per the standard, is to stay away from SmartArt and stick with using shapes, okay? Because each element has alt text that gives the reader a more complete understanding of what is going on with these shapes, especially if you have multiple shapes. Now, one more thing with respect to shapes. It all goes back to the order of elements. If you are going to put shapes in that need to be read in a certain order, let's say you want to have some kind of flow to the shapes, a flow chart sort of a structure, you need to storyboard the shapes so that you put them in the order they're going to be read. Without and then put the connections in randomly, because the person with sight is simply going to understand. But now that you have to think about accessibility, that is no longer acceptable. You have to storyboard your flow chart so that you put the shapes in order that you want them to be read. Is everybody good with that? Show of digital thumbs or real thumbs? Okay, very good. Thank you. Next, videos inserted into the slide. Remember I was talking about Netflix and closed captioning. Show of digital thumbs. Is everybody familiar with how to insert a YouTube video or any other type of video into PowerPoint? Show of digital thumbs. Yes, I'm familiar. Digital. Here. So I'm going to insert. I'm going to go to new slide. Here's my title. I'm going to make sure it's unique. And I want to insert a video. So now I'm going to go up to, I'm going to hit YouTube real quick. Okay. And I'm just going to find some random video. So I'm going to just say jazz, right? Because I'm a jazz guy. And I'm going to find my favorite AI generated jazz music. There we go, AI generated jazz music. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to turn it off. And I'm going to just go ahead and I'm going to copy the address. I'm going to go back to my PowerPoint presentation. Not this one. I'm going to go back into here. And I'm going to go insert. And where is it? Photo album camera. Come on, guys. Video right here. Right? Video for online videos, right? And I'm going to insert the address, and it's just going to insert it. It's actually very simple, very, very simple to insert the video. Here's the problem for you. The problem for you is you must make sure that that video has closed captioning, at least with the ability to turn the closed captioning on. You are not responsible for whether that video has closed captioning or not. In this case, it's not really an issue because it's jazz, right? You're not going to be reading off it. And in this case, the closed captioning is unavailable. You're not responsible for whether the video has closed captioning or not, but you are responsible for choosing a video that doesn't have closed captioning. And that's a letter. So you need to make sure before your video is inserted that it has closed captioning. And this is important for videos that you may be hosting on stream, for instance. Videos that you host on stream must have closed captioning and transcription turned on. Okay, so if you're inserting any of your own videos that you've created, you have to make sure that that transcriptioning and that closed captioning is turned on and available if you're going to insert that into this video. And when you present the video itself, you need to turn the closed captioning on. Okay? Even if you know there's nobody in your group that needs it, just make it a habit to turn the closed captioning on. Nobody's going to be upset. And in fact, they'll be understanding of what's happening on the clip. So just make it a habit to turn the closed captioning on in your videos. Is everybody good with that? Okay. Okay, things to avoid. Do not do this. Pattern backgrounds. Okay, it will cause contrast issues with your text, and even sighted users will want to kill you. Nobody likes patterned backgrounds of any sort. Stay away from animations unless they are contributory and minimal. Okay? You have no idea, and you guys have probably seen this, it always drove me nuts. You know those presentations where people, every point would fly in from the left, then do a little circle and you do a bang? Let me ask you a question. If that didn't happen, would it have changed your life any? I don't think so. Okay? Stay away from you absolutely must use them. Okay? Nobody will wish you used animations if you don't use them. And they confuse the screen reader. Table images, again, table and chart images. So I'm going to say table and chart images. Okay? Links to other slides, that can present a little problem. Because a lot of times people will want to create certain games with the presentation where a common example is the Jeopardy game, where if you have a table and then you click on one of the cells, it is then linked to another cell, which brings up the text that was in that cell. That was good. I've used that. I've used it before, but it's recommended against. It confuses the screen reader. Okay? Anything flashing it's distracting, and it will confuse the screen reader. And it will cause people who can see but have sight issues problems. Okay, not even to mention those who might have seizure issues based on light. So anything flashing, and I'm quite confident all of you already know this, and none of you have ever used that stuff, but I'm just pounding it into your heads in order for you to understand. Okay, does anybody have any questions about creating accessible PowerPoint presentations? Are we all good? Okay, so Thomas, you came in a couple of minutes after we started. So I just want you to be aware that in the chat here, I left a cheat sheet for you, a Word cheat sheet with all these rules and more. Okay? And there is also a link to accessibility PowerPoint training videos. There's one training video that's 9 minutes, but the rest of them are 2-3 minutes long with all of these rules and more. Very easily digestible for you to understand yourself, for yourself, or to present to others as well. Okay? And hopefully this will, give everybody that you're presenting it to a very good idea of what they have to do. Okay, guys, thank you very much. Unless anybody has any questions, next week we come back here, we talk about Adobe. And the reason that I'm not telling you exactly what it is because it has escaped my head for the moment. I'm not going to lie. Okay, so watch out for the announcement next week in the bulletin and Campus Connect. We will be talking about Adobe, and I hope to see you all there. And I'm getting a typed message in here, so hang tight. Nope, the type. Okay, you're very welcome, guys. Have a great day, and see you in a week.